Now there are different ways to deal with this, other than the jointer that is. In my case here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of hand planing on the sides that are high. I've determined that it rocks this way. So if I plane a little bit off here and over here, that should flatten it out enough so that I can get it to sit flat on the table saw. Okay, I planed enough off each opposite corner there to make it sit flat on the table saw without rocking too much. Not looking for it to be dead flat. I'll be taking it too far. I've got another problem with this piece though. It's also bent this way. So generally the safest way to cut a piece of stock that is curved is to put the concave side up against the fence and then make your first pass just to try to cut the outside of that outward curve off. So I've got my fence set to just do that. And then after that cut is done, I'll flip the work around and I'll move the fence in by about 1/16 of an inch just to shave a little bit off the other side. Then I can flip it once again and make a clean cut on the other side again. And that one should be nice and straight. Okay, I can confirm the straightness with a straight edge, but I'm just eyeballing it here by sight, and it looks good to me. What I'm looking for here out of this is not, say, perfection. It doesn't have to be that good, but it has to be generally straight. So the next thing I'm going to do is reset my fence to 1 inch because I need these strips to be 1 inch, and I'll go ahead and I'll start cutting those, but I'll be keeping that cut edge that I just did up against the fence so that I wind up with, you know, a parallel side to that or a parallel cut to that. All right, so what I have here are the 3 strips that I need cut to 1 inch thick, except they still have crappy edge, and also they're still curved because this piece of 2x4 here was a total pile of garbage. The only thing that saves it and makes it so that I'm able to use it or want to use it is because of its age. It's been seasoning for the past 60 years inside my house in the walls, and I took it out and it's really stable. It doesn't want to, you know, shift around. There's no stress in there to relieve, even though it's full of knots. So my first cut, or my next cut I should say, is once again to put that concave side up against the fence. I've lowered my blade this time though, and I'll basically do the same thing again. I'll make a very light first pass, then I'll flip the work around and make another light pass, moving the fence a little bit closer, and then I'll make a third pass to straighten that first side. And I know this sounds like a lot of work, and really it is when you want to try to recycle this lumber. However, you don't need to have a jointer to get reasonable quality pieces from this stuff that was basically unusable before. So that's that way, where you do it that way. I've got the other piece of the 2x4. What I did was, this was a longer one. I cut it in half because it was too bent. And this first part of it here is straighter, but it is still slightly twisted, and it is cupped this way. So I just wanted to show you a different way of doing it. You can actually use the edge, very similar to the way I did these, to straighten up the other side first. If your objective is to cut smaller pieces like this, this is not going to work if you want to just size this thing down to a smaller size type thing, just a little bit smaller to straighten it up. In that case, you're better off to use a lot more of the plane in the beginning and get one side nice and straight. then trim off the edges. And if you've got a surface planer, that'd be the best thing. But otherwise, you're stuck with the plane, measuring it type thing. A lot of handwork, which I don't generally believe in. So I just wanted to show this. This is where you would flatten this edge, which I've already determined to be the best, or as far as flatness goes. And that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my saw for 1 1/8. And what that'll give me is, it'll give me a strip that's 1 1/8 inches thick, of course. But then I can flip it over and cut it down to the 1 inch that I actually need. And in this way, I'm saving at least a step of flattening one side type thing with the plane. And the idea here is to hold it up tight to the fence as you push it through, not holding it down tight to the table. Of course, you have to make contact with the table. Otherwise, if it lifts up, it'll bang back down when the blade catches it. But you really need to keep it up tight against the fence all the way as it goes through. And that's what'll give you your straight cut. So yeah, that's the 3 pieces again. And once again, I would do exactly the same thing as I did with these ones. I would straighten them in the same way, put the convex side against the fence first to make that light pass, to take a little bit off. What you're trying to do is to take the crown out on this side, and then take that flattened part, that up against the fence, make another cut on the other side, very shallow, just to straighten that up. Flip it again, make another cut, and it should be nice and straight like these ones already are. So that wraps this one up. I hope it was helpful, and I hope it gets you thinking about different ways to approach things, along with the safety aspect and the experience aspect of this. It's also about that. It's about not to reject standard ways in doing things, but if you're like me, and you're doing this for years and years, what you do is you develop your own ways of doing things, and you don't say that this is the way it has to be done, and I'm not going to do it any other way, because there's always another way.
Bureau clock, just get me out of this office block, because it's time for Bureau clock. I don't know where we will stop, because I need that cool fizz beer washed down with the cheese.